Hello, and welcome to the SharePoint Framework and JavaScript Special Interest Group Biweekly Sync. It is November 21st, 2019, almost Thanksgiving here in the States, and almost the end of November, I guess, everywhere else. Moving right into our agenda, we got a bunch of fun stuff today. Latest updates on SharePoint Framework, updates across the patterns and practices offerings, and then as well, 3 great demos from Hugo, Siddharth, and Zach. Excited to see those demos come out. So we got a QR code generator, operating a web camera from an SPFx solution, and then a My Groups web part. So 3 very neat demos, and excited to get to those. So we're going to move sort of quickly here at the beginning to get to those 3 demos. But want real quick to go over some opportunities to participate in a pattern and practice SharePoint Framework JavaScript Special Interest Group, or really patterns and practices all up. We, of course, would really encourage all of you to do a demo. The demos are really, I think, the heart of this call and really one of the more valuable parts. So we can see all the great stuff folks out there in the community are working on and doing, such as web parts, application customizers, stuff around provisioning, and really anything you create in the SPFx space or anything you do using any of the @PnP components. So PnPjs, the CLI, the Reusable Controls, or the Yeoman Generator, the Community Yeoman Generator, and obviously any of that together. So where maybe you've used the CLI to create a web part that uses PnPjs and the Reusable Controls. That's really exciting stuff. Love to see that, and I think it's something we all learn and benefit from seeing those out there. If you're interested in doing a demo, please reach out to myself or Vesa. We'd love to get you on an upcoming call. It might not be like the immediate next call. Sometimes we're booked out as much as a couple months, but would love to have you demo. We will definitely get you a slot and get you the ability to demo. Do not fear. As well, you can always contribute on GitHub. Contributing takes several forms. You can report issues to us. Of course, if you find bugs, we'd love to hear about them. Don't love to hear about them because we hate that they're bugs, but love to hear about them so we can get them fixed and they go away. You can also, of course, submit pull requests. So if you find a bug and happen to have time to submit a fix, love to see that. We've had a few new contributors recently across the libraries helping us out, fixing a few things, which is great. Love to see that and appreciate it very much. And as well, if you see folks that have questions in the issues list, any of the issues lists, and you have a few minutes and you happen to know the answer or have some ideas for them, love for folks to be able to help those people answer those questions, because sometimes it can be get answers to folks a little bit faster than if it just waits for those of us on the core team to respond or have an opportunity to get to it. Sometimes we're busy with other things or we just don't have a chance to get to it. And then finally, we always love to get feedback from folks. How are these calls going? How's the documentation? Where else can we help? What other challenges do you have that perhaps we could try and help you with? And of course, positive feedback is okay too. Sometimes it is nice to hear that folks do appreciate the work you are doing. So some links here to get you to the SharePoint Dev documentation, aka MS SPDev-Docs. That is the all-up SharePoint developer documentation. Whether you're new to SharePoint Framework, need to look something up, or are working in sort of managed code solutions, any of CSOM, any of these things, SPDev-Docs will get you to the documentation there. SPDev-Videos will get you to our YouTube channel that has tutorials on things from provisioning to using the CLI to various frameworks, and as well recordings of all of our calls. So this call, the other special interest group call, the weekly series Vesa and Waldeck are hosting, and then all the monthly calls as well will all be found there. So if you miss a call, never fear, you can go check out the video and the recording there. And I think like 98% of our videos there. I think we've only had 1 or 2 that have the recordings have failed and we haven't gotten them up there. So check those out as well. SPDev-Issues. So that is a link to a GitHub issues list that is a place to report any issues you see around modern SharePoint, so stuff around SharePoint Framework, Pages solutions, things like that. And it gets a lot of views from the engineering team themselves. We'll review those things and they get triaged and put into the backend tracking system. So that's where you should be reporting any issues you might see around SharePoint modern development. And then as well, finally, github.com/SharePoint or github.com/PnP. So those are the 2 main areas that the patterns and practices team is working within. So some of the libraries are still in the /SharePoint space. So that's going to be like Sites Core, What else is over there? The old JavaScript core library that's no longer used, so definitely don't check that out. But then as well, those SPDev issues list is there. The SPDev sample repositories are there for web parts and extensions. Great to check that out. And then github.com/PnP has stuff like the CLI, the reusable controls, and PnPjs can all be found there. So real quick, updates on SharePoint Framework from Besa.
Yeah, so I'm going to take some time on here. So let's go forward in here. Just a quick update on the metrics. Once again, we can see actually interesting growth on the left side of the metrics. So for the past few weeks, so the 2 weeks, it's again jumping. We are not explicitly sure what is always the waves, but we are again growing enormously. So the usage of SharePoint Framework is up, well, much more than anybody was expecting. But we're also seeing a lot of growing usage also on people building SharePoint Framework-based Microsoft Teams tabs, which is a great thing that is getting attention as well. Now let's go to the following slide. The following slide is actually a reminder on a video which we published earlier today, which is around the preview of new capabilities which are coming in the SharePoint Framework version 1.10. And this was recorded yesterday. It is me actually talking and showing the demos around the upcoming features, so covering those individual things which are coming to GA and those which are coming to preview. Well, some of them, not explicitly all of them, but most of them we go through in a live demo. I think it's 50 minutes, but it will actually show you what's coming. It is available in the YouTube channel, so AKMS SPDev/videos. It is the location. Now, if you go to the following slide, it is actually exactly the same slide which I used in that video, just to summarize what's coming in the 1.10. This isn't subject to change there, most likely is not valid anymore. We're getting closer and closer on releasing 1.10. It will not happen today. It will not most likely happen next week, but we're getting closer and closer. So we're talking about weeks rather than days or months at this point. And there will be the pre-allocated placeholders will be available in the video. We're showing that one as well. SharePoint Framework Teams personal app support is available. That's shown in the video as well. Support for mobile apps in the SharePoint Framework for Teams. That's not shown in the video, but it's available in the 1.10. And list notification API is moved to GA. This has been in preview and it's now moving into the GA. So we're able to use that. Two super exciting things on the previous side of the house is that you can actually start building query suggestion extensions. So a new extension called Query Suggestions, which can be used to control what texts are being sent towards Microsoft Search. So you can actually modify that search experience slightly. It's not a super massive extension, but it gives you an indication of where we are investing also around the search experiences. And then a really important thing, we are now coming to preview related on building Office add-ins or Outlook web access add-ins using SharePoint Framework. So really cool thing. On the following slide, if we go there, this is the future, what's going to happen after 1.10 version. Just to recap this one as well, there will be a video related on the Fluid Framework capabilities and integration coming up pretty soon in the YouTube as well, just letting you know. I think it's coming out tomorrow. But we're looking into having native support for Fluid Framework. If you do not know what that means, go and check out the video when it goes live tomorrow in the YouTube channel, so you'll understand what the Fluid Framework in the context of SharePoint Framework means. We're looking into having the store support for SharePoint Framework, so you can actually truly build solutions and then serve them using the AppSource store to sell those to be available for the customers and partners. We're looking into having a unified toolchain for Microsoft 365 for workloads. In the blog post, which we released in the Ignite timeframe, we called it Yo Microsoft 365. Whole point is that when you start creating solutions for any services, you can actually use Microsoft 365 components, and then it's a matter of, okay, so where do we want to surface this component? So it's no longer about building Microsoft Teams tabs using SharePoint Framework, which sounds so weird. It's rather, let's create an Microsoft 365 component and surface that in a different services. So we're getting there, but this is in calendar year 2020. So you'll see more information around that one during spring timeframe. Faster inner dev loop means monthly releases and more extensions. So left navigation, top navigation, navigation nodes, overriding of things, and all of that is definitely coming for SharePoint Framework as well. But that's a quick intro on those things. Like said, there's a videos coming up on this one as well. The 1.10 release video is already out because last time in the SPFx call we actually demoed stuff, but the recording didn't catch those due to whatever reason, so we were unable to actually share that video. I'm going to go one more slide. Reminders from the Ignite. So in Ignite, we already reminded people on this, and there is now a beta certification available for building applications and solutions with Microsoft 365 core services. The main topics in here is the identity, Microsoft Graph, which is basically the main root or the baseline of everything. And then in areas of Teams, Office add-ins, and SharePoint Framework will be covered within that certification. Really important thing to remember also is the last bullet point over there. If you join Office 365 developer program, you will get a free Microsoft 365 E5 dev subscription. And that's going to renew automatically in 90 days as long as you use it for developer usage. So it is a free tenant. You don't have to pay anything. There's no future costs on that one. It will automatically renew in 90 days as long as you use it for developer usage. So please take advantage of that offer. But that's it from my side. So from the SharePoint Framework side of the house, so let's go to the open source side and then to the demos. Now, for me, I do apologize. I have to drop from this call, so I won't be here for the whole time. So thank you, Patrick, for leading the rest of the call, and thank you already advance for the community members doing demos. I'm definitely going to check them out tomorrow when the recording is available. But that's it. Patrick, take it away.
All right, some quick updates on this so we can get to the demos. Updates for PnPjs client-side libraries. The beta is out. It's been out for a little bit. Help us test it. I'm very interested in hearing, obviously, about any bugs you find, if something's broken. We've done a lot of work to improve the documentation, so want to get some feedback on that if something is missing or unclear. And then as well, we've written a transition guide to go from V1 to V2. And so if you find something that's missing or unclear in that guide, or we missed some steps that are critical, would love to hear about that as well. And do please note in your issues, it does relate to V2 beta. That really helps us understand what to look for and make sure we can find that issue very quickly. We talked about this last time, but want to mention again the support plan after V2 release. We'll try and maintain as best we can feature parity for 3 months between V1 and V2. So if we add something to V2 where we're able to, we will add it into V1 as well. And then after those 3 months, we will continue to actively support V1 for an additional 3 months. So that's 6 months of total support for V1 after the V2 release. And after that, of course, we'll always accept PRs for V1, but official support will end. In other words, that's not where I will be putting my energy after those 6 months. And we are aiming for release. I've picked the date December 20th, kind of out of the air. But so the clock, that support clock will start sometime in January 1, let's say, because that makes the math really easy. So 3 months from January 1 is March, and then another 3 months is April, May, June. So that's kind of the calendar there in terms of the V1 support moving forward. And then we do, of course, still continue to do releases of V1. So we'll have a release on schedule December 6th. There's a few issues out there we'll get resolved and into that release. And if you have some other issues or if you have some other code or enhancements you'd like to submit, absolutely would love for you to get those in by December 6th for the next version. Documentation link down there at the bottom, pnp.github.io/pnpjs. You can always follow the hashtag PnPjs on Twitter. And you can always follow me at Mediocre Bowler on Twitter. I mostly just tweet about PnPjs, so you won't get a lot of spam or other stuff there. One quick announcement, we are going to be dropping the @PnP Graph library from V2. We've been under increasing pressure from the Graph team to remove this offering, and so that's going to happen with the V2 release. We'll no longer have a Graph library. I want to apologize to everybody that's helped us build this over the years. I want to say that I genuinely appreciate everyone's hard work and dedication to this shared community project. And really, I'm sad to see this go, but it's time for this to happen. So that's that announcement. Moving on to CLI updates. PnP Office, no bowling tweets. Do you guys want more bowling tweets? I could do more bowling tweets. My scores haven't been really good enough to warrant them, though. PnP Office 365 CLI, we got a new beta 2.3.0 out with externalizing dependencies in SharePoint Framework projects. We're retrieving information about Yammer users and messages, and as well bug fixes and improvements to that beta release. So you can always check out the latest beta from @PnP/Office 365-CLI at Next, aka MS O365 CLI, link for all the documentation. You can follow the hashtag Office365 CLI on Twitter. As well, there is a Gitter channel. And again, that link to the docs gets you all the information you need to get started on the CLI. SPFx reusable components. So this is work that is currently in progress, adding an automated localization service to translate the labels to all languages not yet translated. So this is a quick way to support more languages, which I think is a really super valuable addition to these controls. It's going to be exciting to see that come to fruition. And then as well, would like to thank the following folks listed there: Amortcel, Hugo, Robert, PFC2K8, Peter, Alex, Luis, and Erwin Traub for all your help building up the controls. We really can't do this work without everybody in the community helping out with this stuff. And two links down there at the bottom: SPDev-FX-property controls will take you a link to the property controls, which are controls designed to work in the edit tab of your web parts within SharePoint Framework, and really provide you a great rich editing experience that's already styled with Office UI Fabric, gives you a nice out-of-the-box look, and saves you a lot of time creating the editing experience. And then the SPDev-FX-controls-React is controls designed for use in the body of your web parts, so that they would work equally well in application customizer, for example. And so you can use those to again get a great looking display for your users and save yourself a lot of time by dropping these controls into your projects. They are React based, so just a heads up, they are React based, so they obviously will only work within a React project, but definitely check those out. They're a huge time saver, they look great, and there's a lot of functionality packaged into those controls. So please do check those out. And then finally, before we get to the demos, we have the Community Yeoman Generator. So this is a Yeoman generator built on top of the out-of-the-box Microsoft SharePoint generator. So under the hood, you're going to get a quote-unquote real SharePoint Framework project with all the same dependencies and all the things you would expect, except you have the option to add a lot of additional functionality right there in the generator. So things like handlebars, view, PnPjs, the property controls, the React controls, and so forth. You can add that right in the generator as opposed to having to just install them afterwards. So you get a little bit cleaner experience, a little more repeatable experience. We do have a new release out, 1.10.1, which really the update is around the DevOps, kind of the back end of this, but better unit testing coverage, and that's just creates then a better generator experience for everybody that's using it. Updated some dependencies inside that DevOps pipeline. So a lot of kind of sometimes it's not the most visible work, but it's very important work to improve that build experience, and then that always results in a better end product for everybody using it. So definitely check out the generator. It's a great way to start your SPFx projects with a lot of functionality already built in. Save yourself, again, a lot of time, which is the goal for all of us as developers. You can install the generator at npm install-g at pnp/generator-spfx. Documentation, aka ms/PnP generator. And then as well, there is a Gitter channel where you can chat about the PnP SPFx generator, and encourage you to check that out. And now, I think we've gone fast enough. We'll have time for all three of our demos. First up is going to be Hugo with the QR code generator. So excited to see this. Hugo, are you ready to go?
I am ready. Let me just share my screen.
Yeah, if you want to take over the presentation.
Hi, everybody. My name is Hugo Bernier. This is me on the corner there. I work for a company called Point Alliance, and I'm a geek. I love coding. I love SharePoint. And I love tweeting and writing samples about it. So this is my tweet handle and my blog. I'm usually pretty active, except recently because I've been on the conference cycle. I will be presenting, if anybody of you are in Toronto over this weekend, I will be presenting at the SharePoint Saturday in Toronto. I'm actually doing two presentations at the exact same time. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that yet, but that's what the schedule says. And also, for those of you who are interested in contributing to any PnP and are kind of scared about how to get started, I will be helping David Warner with tomorrow's session on sharing is caring. I'm sure David right now is probably sharing the link. Okay, so what I'll be talking about today is an extension that I published on the SPFx extensions called the React command QR code. And what it does is actually generates QR codes. And the reason why I'm doing QR codes is because in a lot of countries, I live in Ontario, so in my province, by law, organizations have to post all sorts of posters and things like that. For example, the health and safety laws actually say that we have to post information about the health and safety committees, the guidelines and things like that. And that's actually written in the law itself, where you have to post, a piece of paper that lists all the members of the Joint Health and Safety Committee. So what organizations usually do is they'll actually create a piece of paper and they'll actually post it on the boards in the lunchroom and things like that. And two things you can notice here. First of all, you can tell that I'm Canadian by the number of please that appear in my document here. But the other thing that you can notice is that, and I don't know why people do this, but people will actually print pieces of paper with a hyperlink on the piece of paper. I don't know if they're expecting people to click on the link or something like that. But the problem here is, as you can see in this URL, the URLs can be pretty long, and they're pretty hard for people to remember. So how do you handle that? So what I did is I created an extension that you can add to any library, whether it's a page library or document library, which allows users to generate QR codes. And so the way it works is the user selects the QR code command, and then the first thing we look at is there anything selected? If there's something selected, the user selected one document or one page, what we'll do is we'll generate a QR code for that selected item, and we'll give it to them so that they can copy it and paste it on a document or something like that. If the user didn't select anything, then what we'll do is we'll generate a QR code for the document library itself. Because sometimes maybe what we want to do is we want to say, hey, everybody, check this link for the list of policies that are available, or things like that, or go to this site, right? So that's what I will be showing you right now. So I was planning on going directly to the code, but I guess I should probably show you what it does first. So this is an example of the same document that you saw before. This is the list of committee members, and it's available in a site page library, which is what you see here. It's this document right here. And if you select the document, you'll notice that there's a QR code extension that appears. And when I click on that extension, what it does is it actually, I stole the exact same style as the copy link behavior. But what it does, it generates a QR code for this document. It copies it into the clipboard, and then it allows users to either copy again in case they want to copy it again, or they can download the document. So what I'll do here is I'll just download it. It's called QR code 17. And then to show that I'm not lying about this, I found this really cool website by Lazar Laszlo that actually allows you to choose a QR code and then read the URL for it. So if I click on my downloads here and I pick the QR code that I just downloaded, what you should see is it gives me a link to the same page that we were showing before. So I'm not cheating. If I don't select anything, you can see that I still have a QR code that appears here, and that QR code is actually pointing to the document library. So if I wanted to send people to this, and this applies to also document, not just pages. And the thing that I should point out is I also did it so that those QR codes or that extension will appear on the context as well. So you can do that. All right, so let's talk about how I did this. All right, so what I did here is I created an extension, and the extension is actually pretty simple. What it does is when there's only one command in my extension, and when the command gets called, I get the page context because I'm going to be using the page context for generating some information. I also get the URL of the site, and I generate the relative URL of the site because I'm going to need to do this to rebuild the URLs here. And I also get the root of the URL. But then what I do is I actually look at if the number of selected rows is greater than 0, do this here, which is get the relative URL of the document that's been selected, get the file name of the document that's been selected, because I'll actually need to be displaying the file name. And I'll also want to use that so I can use a disposition later, and then build an absolute URL. Now, I'm not necessarily proud of this code here. I'm just kind of aggregating the thing. I should probably use a better approach, but I wanted to keep the code as simple as possible. If there's nothing selected here, in fact, this code would probably handle if more than one items are selected, but what I do is I just get the relative URL for the list, and I just generate the URL for the list. The cool part here is this here, where I generate a new dialog object, and I pass it the file name, the absolute URL, and then I call show. So why am I using a dialog? Why am I not using a pane? Is because I want that behavior that will pop over the whole screen, and I want to be able to dismiss that dialog by clicking away from it. Again, I stole the exact same behavior as the copy link behavior in the SharePoint library, which is right here. I wanted this exact same behavior, right? So when I do this here, I want it to be a dismissible dialog like this. So how do you get dismissible dialogues? I created a class called QRDialog, and what it does is it extends the out-of-the-box base dialog. And the cool thing about the base dialog is that it does a couple things. One is that it has a getConfig method, which will actually look at the configuration that needs to be passed to the dialog. So in this case, I'm saying I don't want it to be blocking. I want to allow people to click away from the dialog.
Hugo, 1 second. I think we might have lost your audio.
All right, someone muted me. Okay, so I just generate I pass the information I'm going to need, and I actually pass a relative or a reference to the parent element, because I want to be able to bind by position when I generate the dialog. And then the dialog content here, what it actually does, if I go all the way up and sorry for the scrolling here, it's actually a very simple dialog. So I use the callout method, and I just generate my buttons for closing. And I use an extension called a React component called QR Canvas that actually generates a canvas object with whatever URL that you want. And then I have my my button here for copying, which calls copy, and my button for downloading. When I click on download, which is a little bit further. Actually, let's start on copy. When I click on copy, what I actually do is I create really quickly a div element, and I actually insert an image element where I copy the URL to the QR code. And then I actually select the image from that HTML element, and I copy it using the clipboard method of the browser. And then I just hide everything. And if I actually delete, I just actually generate a download URL for this. So this is like a super quick review of what we were trying to do. But again, what happens if you use this is you can now create your posters in the Office, and you can actually just generate QR codes by either downloading the QR code like I showed you, or copy and pasting the QR codes. Again, my name is Hugo. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to tweet me. I'm usually pretty good at responding. And please visit my blog. I will actually be writing a blog post about this whole thing. That's it for me. Back to you, Patrick.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Really cool thing there to see a QR code getting generated. I think there's a lot of applications for that, so it's going to be a great sample for people to check out. So moving right along to Siddharth, if you are ready to go and want to take over the presentation.
Thank you. Let me just start sharing my screen. Thank you for allowing me, giving this opportunity to present the sample in this community call. Today, what I would be covering is how to, operate the web camera in our SharePoint Framework solution. First of all, little bit about myself. I'm Siddharth Vaghasia. I'm a technical consultant at TCS, primarily focusing on SharePoint, Office 365, Azure, basically on Microsoft technology stack. I like to write articles. I like to blog on my personal blog and also on C# Corner. These are some of my contact handles and some of the links through which you can connect with me. So today we'll be talking about this React webcam. Is about how to open the webcam and take the photo. This is the link through where you can find the source code of this particular sample. So summary, so as you know, the idea behind working on the sample was to see if we can interact with the native hardware like web camera from the SharePoint Framework web part. And the requirement was to, if we can able to allow user to capture the photo dynamically at runtime and maybe upload it to a document library or maybe update profile picture using Graph API. So this was the idea behind which I had started working on this sample. So what I did was there are actually two parts which I would be showing in this today's call. The first one, the basic, which where the PR has been approved and which is available in the GitHub repo, is only to use the webcam and take the photo. But then after submitting it, from the last few days, I am working on an extended version of the same web part, wherein we can take the picture and also upload it to a document library. So though this PR is yet not submitted or yet not available in the GitHub repo, walk through it on how it looks like. npm package is used. So what I did is I used a React webcam npm package, which is available, which allows us to interact with the webcam on our Node.js based solution. And as SharePoint Framework solution is based on Node, we can use that particular library in our solution. So going to demo, let me just see. I already have running. So what I did is there are basically, we started with a basic scenario, so that to demonstrate all the different use cases which can be used in our complex web parts, like opening a webcam, taking photo, and closing the webcam. So this one is the first part, wherein it's just opening the webcam, taking the photo, displaying it in the canvas here, and then just closing the webcam. Okay, so let me just open the webcam. Hi everyone. So now next thing I'll do is I'll just take a photo of it. So if you can see, the photo has been taken and it has been rendered on the screen here. This is nothing but an image HTML tag where we are rendering the photo, and then I can just close the webcam also using this close button. So this is very basic web part, but may be useful for generating the complex scenario. There are no configuration properties available, but in the second part of the web part, I mean the version 2 of the web part which I am working on, there are some advanced features which I like to show. So let me do one thing. Let me first walk through the first part. Okay. So as this web part is just as it is a React based library which you are using, so the web part is also a React based. Here what I have a simple 3 buttons HTML which has an event binder attached to it, and for displaying the camera, the web camera onto the page, I have a container div which is available, and there is another div where we will be displaying the captured photo. On button click of the open camera, I have a method openCam. So where what I'm doing is I'm basically using the dynamically creating the React create element method, passing the particular webcam object and its property, wherein I can define all the different configuration options which is available. And now then we are using the React DOM method.render to basically render the particular element, which would be the webcam element, into my container, which is basically here. The other thing is to take the photo, a capture method. So the good thing about this that it has some methods which are available through which we can actually take the screenshots and everything. So if you see in the capture screenshot, what I am doing is I'm just using the state webcam variable, which is basically the reference to my webcam element, and calling the get screenshot method. So what it will do, this method would return us the base64 encoded string of the particular image which has been captured. And then I'm just creating a new element of image and applying the source attribute of the image tag, and then again rendering it. So this is how the image is getting displayed. And on close, there were no methods available in the webcam. So what I'm doing is I'm using the unmount component at node method, wherein I'm just unmounting the particular container so that the web camera would close. So pretty simple. I mean, the code is not that complex. Okay. Before moving on, what I'll do is I'll just show you the React webcam npm package which we am using. We can just install it using React webcam npm install command. These are the different properties which are available. These are the methods which says get screenshot, which returns us the base64 encoded string. Then good thing is, I mean, other part is what I did. I also tested this on the mobile camera, basically opening the URL in the mobile camera. And it also, uses the front camera and back camera. So there is an option wherein we can allow user which camera we should be opening, like maybe selfie camera or the facing camera or the user camera. So pretty much about React webcam here. Next thing what I'll do is I'll just show you the extended part of the web part, which I have right now working on. It is again doing same thing, but the only difference is what it will do is it will basically upload the particular for captured photo into a document library, and so to make it more kind of configurable, I have used PnP control list picker, which is very pretty much handy to use to allow the configuration option. So there user is basically selecting the user would be basically selecting the list library into which the document library would be uploaded. As this is based on the SharePoint context, what I'll do is I'll run it through the SharePoint workbench. I'll just add the web part. Yeah. Yes, again, as I'm loading it for the first time and the web part is not been configured. I'm again using placeholder SPFx PnP reusable placeholder control to configure the web part. So here I can select the library onto which I wanted to upload the document. So I'll just select documents, and then pretty much the same user interface will be here. To make it little more interactive and maybe a little more attractive, what I did is I'm using the webcam again. Hi, hello again. To take the picture, it will just basically open it in the dialog box, and it will ask whether I want to save it or I want to retake the photo. So this might be again a scenario which would be be used where user might want to retake the picture. So I'll just say yes. And what it will do is will upload the file to particular document library. So this was the library which I have selected, basically document library. And if you can see, there is an image which has been uploaded here with a second ago. I'll just click on it to see whether it is viewable. And so if you see, sorry for the bad quality, my webcam is not that of high resolution, but if you can see, the image has been uploaded. So this is what the extended version of the webpart does. Let me just walk through the extended part which I'm working on. So here, to start with, what I'm using, as I said, I'm using the PnP Reusable Property Pane Control List Picker. I am filtering it with base template 101, so only libraries would be displayed in the dropdown. I am passing the display mode and the context from the webpart file to my component, which is my SPFx webcam.component. Here I have again just a placeholder to see whether the properties library has been selected. If it is empty, if it is not selected, just display the placeholder. Otherwise, we can just show the actual webpart content. Here, nothing new in terms of opening webcam, capturing, and just that what I'm doing is I have just moved the captured photo container into dialog box, and on click of it, what I'm doing is there is an upload method. Okay. So in upload method, again, as my image source is basically a base 64 encoded string, I'm just replacing the prefix text, okay, just to get the source base 64 content. And then this is the method which is actually converting my base 64 to array buffer. And then it will just convert it to array buffer, and then there is a method called upload file, where I am again using PnPjs to basically upload a document to a particular library. So this is again pretty much straightforward, and the name which I am using is basically just using the current logged in user's display name to create the file name which would be uploaded to the document library. And then just displaying a message bar saying that your photo has been uploaded successfully, and closing the dialogues. So this is pretty much it from my side. If any questions, anything, I'll just check the chat window and maybe get back to you. Patrick, and
yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that demo. That's really cool to see. I am continued to be amazed at how simple some things have gotten that used to be incredibly complicated, like using a webcam. That's really cool sample, really neat to see. Thank you for sharing that and sharing your code. That's another great sample for folks to check out. I can think of a lot of great uses for being able to take pictures straight into SharePoint. Zach, are you ready to go?
Hey, yeah, I'm ready. I'll get my screen shared.
Awesome, I can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. So a quick introduction about myself. Been working with SharePoint for about 3 or 4 years now. Kind of got pulled into SharePoint. New to my company, working as admin, and then recently started working in the SharePoint framework, working on solutions in my company. So I've created this web part, React My Groups. A couple of my users, they usually kind of get lost in SharePoint. We don't have an intranet yet on our SharePoint. We're working towards it, but they are trying to find what site they're trying to get to, and so they kind of have an issue there. So I came across this web part to just list all the 365 groups that they're part of. Just uses Microsoft Graph, which will go out, pull the group, and then pull in the group, a link to the URL on their SharePoint site, and then the group's thumbnail. I'll give you guys a quick overview of the web part right here. So I'll refresh this page, just see it load. So it's going to pull in the groups all for the current user, which is myself, and just this couple of groups I have right here. If I click on a group, it will take me to that SharePoint page, the group right there. Let me jump over to the code real quick. And so we have the web part TS file right here. And so we're doing an on init. We are setting up this group service. We're passing in the context there. And so in that file, this is where we are creating the calls to the Microsoft Graph. So we have 3 calls in here, one for getting groups, getting group links, and getting the group thumbnails. The get groups, we are calling the API, this right here. This is so the current user, member of Microsoft Graph group, and it's going to filter it for, and this filter right here will go to any 365 groups. Came across this looking at the Microsoft Graph documentation. And so on the get groups links, we're passing in this API right here. We're going to pass in the groups ID as a parameter and pull back the URL. And then sort of thumbnails, we are passing an ID again, requesting that group's photo. So if they have a profile photo set for the group, it'll pull that back 48 by 48 size, and it'll respond as a blob, which we're going to create to a image URL. So if we jump over to the main web part, this is the main kind of web part container. So on our render method, we're just rendering a title right here. This is the group list, which is going to render all the groups in that list format that we see. And so when the component mounts, we're calling get groups. Get groups is going to use the group service, and then on each of the groups, it's going to set our state to the groups, and then call next to get groups links, passing in all the groups that we just grabbed. And then we're going to kind of do a for each here, so where we are calling our get service or group service again, and we're passing in our group item or group to get the group URL for there. And then so we're going to set our state again, or kind of update our state for our group state. So we're taking the previous state, we're going to map that out, all the groups, and we're trying to find the one where the group ID matches the one that we're currently working on. And we're going to use a spread operator to add a property into that group right there on the object and give it a value of the URL that we returned. And after this, we are going to call our group thumbnails. So this right now is updating the state. So the titles are loading in, the links loading in, and then the thumbnails loading in. So we're getting doing the same kind of the same thing above, where we are calling the group service. We're coming back from the thumbnail, updating their state, where the group ID matches the item ID that we're grabbing right now, and then passing in the thumbnail. So then on our group list, this is getting as prop is getting the groups, and then on render it is passing in this prop right here, which is a callback to this render item method. So if we look on here, we have a SharePoint or a Office Fabric controller list. We're passing in our groups from the props. We have the item count page for the page height and for the column height, and then on our render cell, which is how we kind of render that kind of document card layout, we call this method down here, which passes it back to returning a JSX element for each item. And we do our callback right here to the main component to render those items, passing in the item and then an index for it. So we go back to this guy. Down here we have our on render method, which we're getting the item. We're using the document card control, and so we're setting up the image right here for the thumbnail, setting it to center. 48 by 48 is this picture size that we're expecting, and then we're returning this to our component, or the groups list component. This is the document card. We're passing in the type, which is compact. Make sure that nice little compact component. The props for it, which is the image right here, and then the URL. We're just adding an A tag in there, and the title, which is passing in as the properties on those group items that we get, which generates that list for us, which we see on this page. That's about all I have. Sorry, I went over that a little quick, but I'll answer any questions if there are.
No, that's great. There might be a couple questions there in the chat window. So really 3 great demos today. Excited to see that. I'm going to do my best to share my screen again here. So 3 great demos, Hugo, Siddharth, and Zach. Appreciate those. Very cool. I think 3 great references for folks building solutions, and the links there. I think David has pasted them all into the chat window to those. So definitely check those out. Some really exciting capabilities to show there. And again, I want to remind folks, if you have a demo and you'd like to share it, please reach out to myself or Vesa. We'd love to get you on an upcoming call. I think it's really exciting to see everything the community is working on. Our next SPFx JavaScript meeting will be December 5th. That's in 2 weeks. The next general SharePoint development special interest group meeting will be on November 28th. So that is, weirdly, Thanksgiving. We are going to have a meeting on Thanksgiving. We understand for a lot of folks you might be traveling or with family or with other things, but we will hold the meeting, and the recording will be available later, probably the next couple days. So don't worry if you aren't able to attend on Thanksgiving. Totally understand. The recording will be available, and but we will have the call. So if you just maybe want to get away from family for an hour, come join us, and we'll have that call. Well, thank everybody. Remember, learn, reuse, and share, aka PnP. And we do have about 5 minutes. We could actually do a little bit of Q&A today. If anybody has any Qs, we can try and have some As. Can we find the sample? Yes, I believe the links are in this chat thread to the samples, and as well, they will be posted with the video. So for sure, you can check those out. Does me work for guests? That's a great question, and I don't actually know off the top of my head. You should probably check with the Graph folks on that.
Hello, can I ask you a question there?
Sure.
You mentioned in the beginning about the change on the developer program receiving Office 365 E5, but is there any update for current developer program tenant already up and running to be able to switch from E3 to E5?
As far as I know, the answer is no, but I'm not certain. So I think you would just need to go request a new developer tenant. Okay. But I'm not 100% certain on that, but I think that's probably how it would work. I don't know that there's a way to upgrade an existing dev tenant to the new E5.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
A quick question, Patrick. You mentioned at the beginning as well that the PnP graph service is being deprecated. Is there a replacement or something?
We are not deprecating it. We're just flat removing it. And the replacement, you can check with the graph guys on whatever they're going to be offering through their SDK.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. Cool. Well, with that, I just want to thank everybody for joining the call. Everybody have a great rest of your week. If you can't make it next week, have a great Thanksgiving, and we look forward to talking to everybody soon. Thank you all, and thank you everybody for doing the demos today. Great stuff. So have a great weekend and talk soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.